Welcome to another episode of Out from the Horrorbox. I'm your apocalyptic host, Dom. I will eventually do a deeper dive of this director because he is a very fascinating study. That director is M. Night Shyamalan, and the film we're going to look at for this episode is the 2023 apocalyptic psychological horror film adapted from the novel The Cabin at the End of the World. This is Knock at the Cabin.
Are we gonna sing along?
Yes, of course!
I wanna put on my boogie shoes. Yeah! I wanna put on my boogie shoes. Just a boogie with you.
My name's Leonard. Well, it's nice to meet you, Wen.
Why are you here?
I suppose I'm here to make friends with you. And your dad's too. But my heart is broken
Why is it broken?
because of what I have to do today.
There is a woman carrying something that looks like a pick with a chain and a mallet head.
You see, the four of us have a very important job to do. In fact, it might be the most important job in the history of the world. We were called and are united by a common vision, which has now become a command that we cannot ignore. The four of us are here to prevent the apocalypse. Your family has been chosen to make a horrible decision. If you fail to choose, the world will end.
Seven-year-old Wen, played by Kristen Sway, is vacationing with her two fathers at their remote cabin in rural Pennsylvania. Wen is out catching grasshoppers when she is approached by a large, mysterious stranger named Leonard, played by Dave Bautista. Initially charming, Leonard explains that he needs Wen and her parents to save the world. While the two spend time together catching grasshoppers, Wen becomes suspicious when three other people show up with makeshift weapons. Wen flees to the cabin. Her two dads, Eric and Andrew, played by Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge respectively, are out on the back porch when Wen runs up to them. She explains that there are strangers out front of the cabin. The family goes to the house and look out the window. They see the quartet outside and jump to lock and barricade the house. Leonard knocks on the door. He tells the family to open the door or they will be forced to break into the cabin. Eric and Andrew refuse. The quartet breaks into the cabin. One of the four strangers hits Eric in the head, causing him to sustain a concussion. The four tie up Eric and Andrew and leave Wen free. Leonard and his companions, Sabrina, Adrian, and Redmond, all played by Nikki Amuka Bird, Abby Quinn, and Rupert Grint respectively, claim to have never met before this day and have no intention to harm the family. But in the last week they have been compelled by visions and an unknown power to find the family. The group foresees an upcoming apocalypse in which Leonard claims oceans will rise, a plague will descend, the sky will fall, that finally, in unending darkness, will blanket the earth. This can only be averted if the family kills one of their own as a sacrifice. They are warned that, while they will survive the apocalypse, if they do not choose, they will be doomed to be the last people alive. Eric and Andrew do not believe the group, and that the attack is rooted in hate and delusion. The family refuses to choose, so Redmond kneels in front of the family and covers his head with a cloth. The visitors beat Redmond to death with their weapons. As this happens, Eric sees a figure of light as Redmond dies. Leonard turns on the TV, which shows media reports of 2 deadly earthquakes causing a mega tsunami hitting the west coast of the U.S. and other countries. Leonard says that this is the start of the apocalypse. As Leonard takes Redmond's body outside, Andrew tells Eric that he recognized Redmond, who is actually Rory O'Bannon, a homophobe who assaulted him in a bar years ago, for which he went to prison. Andrew explains to the strangers that he believes Rory tracked him down as revenge. Leonard, Sabrina, and Adrian question if Andrew is right and struggle with their guilt, but maintain that they believe their visions. They reveal that Redmond's death has unleashed the first disaster. The next day, Adrian tells the family that she is to be sacrificed next. She explains the visions she saw and that she is leaving behind a son. The intruders sacrifice Adrian as the family once again refuses to choose a sacrifice. The disasters continue as a deadly flu virus, to which children are particularly vulnerable, spread across the globe. Andrew insists the disasters are coincidental and that the visitors were anticipating pre-scheduled news broadcasting. Sabrina describes that she and the other visitors were led by their visions to find each other online. Wen passes a knife to Eric, and he tells her when he nods to act like she did on Thanksgiving. As Andrew distracts the remaining visitors, Eric cuts himself free and nods to Wen. She begins to throw a tantrum. Eric attacks the pair, and Andrew manages to escape. Andrew is able to get to the truck and retrieve his gun, but is injured by Sabrina. Andrew shoots at Sabrina until she flees. He finds Redmond's wallet and proves to Leonard that he was Rory. Andrew checks and sees that Sabrina has slashed their tires. He explains to Eric that he believes the 4 came in the truck nearby and suggests that they use it to escape. After Andrew and Eric lock Leonard in the bathroom, Sabrina breaks into the house and is fatally shot by Andrew. Leonard tricks Andrew into coming into the bathroom, thinking he has escaped out of the window, and overpowers him, stealing the gun. Leonard sacrifices Sabrina, and the broadcast shows spontaneous plane crashes taking place around the world. Realizing their time is almost up, Leonard takes the 3 onto the back deck. Leonard tells them that after his death, they will only have minutes to decide before it is too late. He sits on a rocking chair and slits his throat. Upon his death, the skies darken, lightning bolts cause fires, and more planes fall. Eric now believes that the events are real, and the intruders represent the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Not wanting Wen to grow up in a destroyed world, Eric offers himself as a sacrifice. He reveals that in the light during Redmond's sacrifice, he saw a vision of Andrew and adult Wen. Eric feels that they were chosen to sacrifice their family because their family's love was so pure. They send Wen to a treehouse with her headphones and tell her not to come out till they come get her. Andrew reluctantly shoots and kills Eric. Lightning strikes and sets the cabin on fire. Andrew and Wen find the visitor's truck with the belongings that corroborate the stories. They drive to a crowded diner nearby, where they watch news reports confirming that the disasters have subsided. Returning to the truck, the radio turns on and plays Boogie Shoes by Casey and the Sunshine Band, the song Eric played for them on their drive to the cabin. The film differs from the novel in a few ways, mainly the ending. I will now be getting into the differences between the novel Cabin at the End of the World and the film. First up, in the novel, Andrew and Leonard get into a struggle over the gun and accidentally shoot Wen, killing her. This weighs heavily on the pair, as they are told by the strangers that her death doesn't count to stop the apocalypse, so they still need to decide which of them to kill. Next, Leonard is the third of the quartet to die. The day after Wen is killed, Adrian is sacrificed. Sabrina begins to doubt what they are doing, especially after Andrew mentions that he believes Redmond is O'Bannon. She kills Leonard and offers to lead Eric and Andrew to Redmond's car. As they leave, the news shows spontaneous plane crashes taking place around the world. The couple follows Sabrina into the forest, taking Wen's body. Sabrina recovers the car keys and a gun that Redmond hid. She tells Eric that there is still time to prevent the apocalypse, then commits suicide. The last difference is the ending. After all the death, Eric and Andrew decide not to sacrifice each other and leave the cabin to face the world, whatever may come of their actions. So the novel is more ambiguous and has a very shocking death of a child. I think for the film, changing the end works, and I think I understand where Shyamalan is coming from by this. I think we see Wen as this thing that cemented the pair's love and would have broken that down, causing more desperation for the couple. But those are the major differences between the novel and the film. Other than that, it's pretty much cut and paste. Alright, so let's get into a little bit of the production. So novelist Paul Tremblay, who had signed on option with Film Nation Entertainment in late 2017 prior to the book's publication, had to keep secret that the film was based on one of his novels until July 2022. The Blacklist and Gladlist listed the initial draft by Steve Desmond and Michael Sherman as one of the most popular unproduced screenplays of 2019. While another director was briefly attached, M. Night Shyamalan read the original script and grew interested in producing. Shyamalan later rewrote the script and came on board to direct the project as part of the two-film partnership between Universal Pictures and its production banner Blinding Edge Pictures. Old was the first film in that deal, with Knock at the Cabin being the second. The first draft was halfway completed by July 2021, and the title was revealed in October. Shyamalan said the script was the fastest he had ever written in his career. And I can see that because it is a shorter story. Just based off of the runtime of the film and reading the synopsis of the novel and knowing what it's about and seeing how it's pretty much they kind of brought pretty much everything from the novel into the film. So I can see how he could have got it done a lot quicker. Okay, so let's get into some trivia for the film. The film received an R rating from the Motion Picture Association for violence and language, making it M. Night Shyamalan's second film to receive that rating after The Happening. And if you have seen The Happening, I think you can tell why, because Mark Wahlberg very woodenly cusses and says curse words every so often. But I can see why this also got an R, just like all the death that it shows and whatever. I can see that. The strangers are each wearing a different colored shirt. Leonard is wearing white, Redmond is wearing red, Sabrina is wearing yellow, and Adrian is wearing blue. Each color represents their portrayal of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. White for guidance, red for malice, yellow for healing, and blue for nurturing. If you look at Andrew's t-shirt, it has elements of each of these colors, hinting that he would be the one to survive. Which is pretty interesting. I love when production designers and costume designers and all that works together to where that just kind of works to the characters and is signifying for those characters. You'll see it a lot in different films where they use color as for that character, and I love that they did it for this, and it really stands out too, especially when you're getting these hints that they're something else, and having those colors to distinguish them really helps with the themes and everything, especially tying it back into the Four Horsemen and all that. Pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. Shyamalan cited Bautista's performance in Blade Runner 2049 as the reason why he wanted him to star in Knock at the Cabin. And 100%, if you have not seen Blade Runner 2049, even if you just want to watch the scene with Bautista, it's at the beginning. And just that small part, he's not in the movie for that long. He plays a replicant that Ryan Gosling's character has to put down. And just that small performance, I was already like, wow, this dude is a great actor. And like, this is really what like The Rock wants to be, an actual actor, not just like an entertainer, an entertainment actor type of person that he's like pegged as now. Because like Dave Bautista like really can give a really good performance. Honestly, I could see him like later down the line if he's in something else be nominated for something. Like honestly, he gives a really good performance in that film and this film. So good on Shyamalan. I would have cast him too. As with Shyamalan's last film, Old, this film is shot on 35 millimeter film. Shyamalan and a cinematographer, Jaron Bleschke, uses lenses from the 1990s to give the film a classic 90s thriller look. And it works. I love, oh my god, the cinematography for this is amazing. It's stellar, like from the first opening shot to the last shots. And I love the way he crafts shots. Sometimes it's very intimate, and it's like sometimes you're like, okay, maybe you need to pull out a little bit, but I get what you're doing for the character. Like you're trying to show like our focus needs to be on this person, so let's go in a little bit closer, right, with it. And yeah, it works. It works most of the time, but then there's sometimes where it's like, okay, you need to pull back a little bit. But just there's just so many shots that are just so amazing, and like I said, they just look. It just looks beautiful, and like I wish he, or I want him to continue using this, or using just like the cinematographer because it looks so good. Kill counter. For this kill counter, we have 5 deaths shown at the cabin, but more are presumed by the videos we see on the news broadcasts, countless people on the beach when the mega tsunami hits the west coast, and also a number of people in the airplanes and those that they crash into. So I don't think I'll count any of those beyond the cabin, just because that's just way too many. That's like thousands, if not millions, like dead, right? It's like countless people dead, because it's not just in the U.S. It's got to be all across the world, because there's planes that are constantly across the world flying, and then just the amount of people that they're crashing into, and then that tsunami didn't just affect. I mean, it was across the Pacific, so of course it's gonna ripple across the whole thing and cause major damage to other countries. So you're racking up millions of death, right? So that would just be ridiculous to try and count anything with that beyond the cabin. So we'll just say there's like a million people there, right? But beyond that, the first death is Redmond, or Rory O'Bannon. He's killed when the 3 strangers use their makeshift weapons. That releases the first plague. It's the first sacrifice that they give, and it's pretty. They don't show it. They kind of cut away from it, and they kind of cut to like more of like an angle of like showing the tools rather than showing like them beating his body to death. The second death is Adrian. She pleads with the family that they need to choose, because she has a son and she has seen him die in her visions. They refuse, and she's sacrificed. And again, thank God we don't get to see like them like brutally like massacring her for the sacrifice. The third person to die is Sabrina. Initially, she gets shot by Andrew after locking Leonard in the bathroom. Once Leonard takes control again and he gets the gun, he goes to Sabrina to sacrifice her by shooting her until she's dead. The fourth person is Leonard, of course, the last sacrifice. After taking the family onto the back deck, He explains that there will only be minutes left for them to decide, and he kills himself. And that's when the world or the sky starts to go black, and we see planes around them start crashing, right? And that's when everything's like, shit, this might be real. And that's when the last death happens um, with Eric. And he explains to Andrew that he had a vision when Redmond was killed, or and he saw a future for Andrew and Wen, and that future showed like an older Wen and an older Andrew, like meeting up together, and she's presumably like doing well off because she's in like a nice suit, she has a nice car, she's taking her dad out for dinner or for a ride or home or somewhere, just like interacting with him, and it's like a nice future. Everyone's happy, and so he decides that he will sacrifice himself. He has Andrew kill him, and that makes him the final sacrifice. And everything kind of starts to slow down. The lightning strikes the cabin, catches on fire. They get away. They see on the news that things seem to be righting themselves, and so we're to presume that his sacrifice kind of stopped the apocalypse. And yeah, so a total of 5 people that, I mean, we see in the cabin die. And like I said, I mean, there's numerous people out there that could have perished too. I really don't want to try and count any of that because it would just be a fool's errand, because how many people are on a plane, but how many of those planes actually had people on them, right? There's so many different variables out there. It's ridiculous to try and sit here and count all those people. So let's move into our final thoughts. Shyamalan has had a history for ups and downs. There's a string of movies happening, Lady in the Water, Last Airbender, etc. I could go on, that caused many to discount his films. But ever since he gave us The Visit, he has been back at his game. He's a director that needs to stay with a more smaller, intimate story. That's why I really love this film. The cinematography is amazing. There are shots that are beautiful. The opening shot, as I mentioned, are awesome. The overhead shots that when Grint is moving around, top to bottom, this is a gorgeous film. And I will say that he is really good at getting really nice shots and making, like, him and whoever he works with cinematography, usually their cinematography for his movies are pretty good. The acting is pretty good. Like I said, Dave Bautista knocks it out of the park. And as I explained with just that one small scene from Blade Runner 2049 would show you right there, like, he's a great actor. And I mean, he does good in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's pretty funny. But I think that him in a more serious role, he knows how to take that and actually work with it. Whereas, like, there's some other wrestler to actors that, they mainly stick with either comedy or action because they really can't get that range of a drama. Also, I think that Kristen Say is also amazing. She does a great job with just the small performance she gets. But every scene she's in, she steals it. She's great. I can't wait to see her in more things. Just like I said, that little part that she had, like every scene, she going toe to toe with these like older actors. That she's not only stealing the scene, or she's like keeping up with like someone like a Dave Bautista or Jonathan Groff, and it's like, man, like if you're doing this now, it's like when you would see like someone like Chloe Grace Moretz, right, back when she was younger, and she was keeping up with like these other actors, right, and stealing scenes, and now she is like her own right, like making. I mean, she can't continuously make films, but like now, as she's grown older, like she's getting these parts, and like I would love for her to have the same thing. I really like this film and hope Shyamalan keeps the streak up, because I'm really starting to love his newer films, from Split and Glass to Old. I really like these movies. I personally really didn't like The Visit. I know there's people out there who did, and I will say, yes, I will credit that to his like comeback. I just did not. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't like the twist of it. It was just kind of dumb. But I will say that like Split was amazing. Glass was pretty good. Old I thought wasn't bad. I thought it was a pretty good twist. I thought it had a pretty good story. And with this, like it's just another like great look at like, hey, this is how you do something where it's like this weird twist in the middle of the story, or like from the beginning of the story, or you know what I mean? Like, is it happening? Is it not happening? It's really fun. I mean, it's not fun them killing people and people dying, but it's like it's a great like horror film. Like it's a great like little like good film to put on like when you're like, hey, like let's watch something short, sweet, and gets to the point. I give it a like 2 thumbs up, way up. It's a great movie. Well, that concludes this episode, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening to this episode. And I know it's a little bit shorter. It's mainly just because I wanted to kind of get something out a little bit quicker, something I saw recently. I know I did post about like either like reviewing Malignant, Prey, or I forgot what the other one was. But I'm gonna get to those eventually. I think I might do Prey next, or Infinity Pool. Actually, I just saw that one, and I also want to get like an update for you guys on the podcast. I think I want to change a little bit of things here and there. I'll talk about it in that episode. I'm going to try and get that one done quicker too. I'm trying to get these quick reviews out quicker to you guys. And then I'm going to try and do some stuff on, and I'll explain it in the update, but like I'm going to try and expand it a little bit. Try and do some other stuff. But just remember, if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe so you'll get every new episode downloaded. The more people who listen and subscribe, the more episodes I'll be able to put out for you guys. So if you enjoy us, spread the word. If you have any suggestions for reviews, content, or want us to read any of your scary stories, if they're fact or fiction, I really don't care. You can always email us at horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at horrorboxpodcast. We'll see you next episode to discover what comes out from the horror box.